Welcome to the She's Just Not That Into You podcast, where we're redefining female experiences and prioritizing female perspectives. I'm Brianne.
And I'm Ji-Yoon. We are two friends with global background, sharing our multicultural experiences and discussing everything that sparks our passion.
Every week, we have honest, intimate conversations that we hope will inspire and empower not only each other, but women everywhere. Hey everyone, so happy new year. We're wishing you all the best for 2025 and more importantly, happy birthday to June.
Oh my god, Rian, thank you so much.
Yeah, 1st of January is June's birthday, so
it's my birthday, and I think it's super special. Like the whole world is literally counting down for my birthday every year. So yeah, thanks for the wishes and happy New Year, Rian, and happy New Year to everyone.
yeah, today we're gonna be talking about how to become a better version of yourself in 2025. New year, new you. And as part of this, we're gonna be talking about why New Year's resolutions tend to fail, some advice we have for how to not make your New Year's resolutions fail, how you can actually become a better version of yourself or improve yourself. And, we have some tips for things that might be better for doing that than setting New Year's resolutions. And finally, we're going to be sharing our own resolutions for this new year, or just generally things that we hope to improve about ourselves or that we hope to achieve this year.
Right. Let's get started.
Yeah.
So maybe I can start by why I always fail in making my New Year's resolutions happen.
Yeah.
There's actually tons of different reasons, but first of all, I think like biggest reason why my resolutions fail is that I make them way too over the top. Like, I mean, I'm not someone who normally plans my life in detail, but when the
Not
new
at all.
year, not at all, right? But when the new year comes around, I suddenly want to change everything about myself and I really want to like reinvent everything about myself. And I just don't want to do one thing. I just want to do everything, anything and everything that's fun, exciting, and inspiring. Like I want to try it all. So when I think back on some of my old resolutions, like I'm gonna work out every single day when my only exercise is literally just breathing. And then I'd go like I'll learn Spanish and I'm gonna do Duolingo every day, watch Spanish YouTube every day, and maybe practice some language apps every day. So my goals were always really big and almost impossible to achieve. So I just had such grand aspirations and I never stuck to them.
Yeah, I think it's because you're an ENFP, right?
Yeah, like I want to do everything and like I'm always very spontaneous and my plans change all the time. Like if something isn't connected to my core values, it rarely like sticks. Like my plans always depend on my mood, my environment, and what's happening around me, like just everything. So my mind is always like running in 10 different directions at the same time.
Yeah.
But some things do stick, like especially the ones tied to my to what I really value. Like for example, like I really love learning languages. So the specific language might change, but the goal of learning new ones is always there.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so interesting to get a glimpse into the mind of an ENFP.
Yeah. And I'm also such a perfectionist. Like if I miss a day
Yeah.
or two where things just don't go exactly as I planned, I just start thinking, oh, this isn't perfect anymore. Like I don't want to do this anymore. So I just think about starting over and over again, but I don't really have the energy for that. So I just sort of, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, yeah. So that sort of always happens with the New Year's resolutions as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm an INFJ, which is pretty different to an ENFP.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty good at sticking to goals and resolutions
You're so good at it.
because I'm really good at, planning in advance. And I think one of my tactics is that I know if I'm not going to be able to commit to doing something. So I never set unrealistic goals or expectations for myself. So that's why I usually manage to meet my New Year's resolutions, because I only just set one, whereas June
Right.
sets like 25.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always make it something really easily achievable and which can be measured as well. So, for
Right.
example, my New Year's resolution last year was to have a birthday party.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen to someone like me, setting a goal like that.
Yeah, so obviously it's a measurable goal. It's
Yeah.
easily achievable. I managed to have my birthday party. I felt good about myself that I met my goal, and it
That's
was
such a
great.
healthy habit, though. Such a healthy mindset, I think. Because I'm such a perfectionist that I usually feel like I've achieved nothing. Like when I look back on the past year,
Oh no.
like when actually I've done a lot, but I always feel like I really didn't do anything.
Yeah, I also think that when it comes to New Year's resolutions, you need to have a kind of long-term mindset about it as well. So just because you don't manage to meet your New Year's resolution in January, or just because you haven't made any progress on it in January, doesn't mean that you can't keep working on it for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, that's the mindset that I need to have.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, maybe including you, just kind of give up if they don't achieve it within a couple of weeks into the
Yeah,
year, right?
right.
Yeah, like for example, a few years ago, well, actually, it was probably more like 5 years ago, I set myself this. Oh my God, actually, 5 years ago was COVID. Wow, time is flying really quickly.
Yeah.
It was actually more like 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I set this New Year's resolution that I was going to read more books. And by the end of February that year, I still didn't read that many books. Maybe I'd
Mhm.
only read like one book until
Right.
the end of February. But then by the end of the year, I'd read about 70 books.
That's a lot.
Yeah, right? So I
Yeah.
managed to meet my goal by the end of the
Oh
year, but
my
it took the
god.
whole year, right?
Yeah. Had it been me, I would have been like, oh my god, I didn't stick to my plan. I want to change everything. So I'm gonna like just change my plans like dramatically.
Yeah, you need a long-term mindset.
Yeah. But I just don't like the fact that I've, missed the first month or something.
Yay.
Yeah.
But even though you keep saying that you're bad at setting goals and you fail New Year's resolutions, you have still managed to, work on yourself over the years, and you've done certain things to improve your life. So, do you have any idea what you do in order to do that if you're bad at New Year's resolutions and goal setting and all that?
Um, so I don't really plan things in my life. I just kind of like go with the flow most of the time. So my way of doing things probably isn't really helpful for people who are more organized and planning, but like for the people like me who make plans and don't stick to them, it's important not to get stressed about it. Like, I don't really get stressed about not sticking to my plans because I don't see it as failing. Of course, I feel bad when I slack on things that really, really matter to me. But when plans fall apart, I usually just think to myself that everything happens for a reason. And I just end up doing something else that's just as fun and inspiring and meaningful. Like, for example, last year, I wasn't able to stick to many of my plans, but like, I went to Japan for the first time and I went to a lot of film festivals that I've been wanting to go to. And I also started a feminist club with my friends in Korea. And I went to Taiwan and I also published a book. And I even gave a lecture at Yale University. And all that just kind of happened without me like obsessing over plans. And these are just as good as what I had on my to do list at the time, and they exponentially improved my life as well. And I'm not saying that doing whatever you want whenever is always the best approach, but you have a pretty good chance of improving your life when you listen to your inner voice and let that guide your life, even when you don't have solid plans ahead. So just think about what you really want to do at that moment and just, try it and see where things go and make amends accordingly. Like I said, I'm no planner, and Brienne, I think you have a lot more to share with our listeners about how to best plan and all that, right?
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting for listeners because they'll have two different options to go by in terms of
Right.
what they find relatable, right? Because you're
Yeah.
very spontaneous and not a planner, and I'm a huge planner.
Yeah, we are like totally from different worlds, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Total opposites.
Yeah, for me, I think the advice I would give to people who might be struggling with setting goals for themselves or just generally not knowing how they should go about trying to improve themselves this year would be that first, it's important to work out what you actually want. Because a lot of the times people set goals for themselves that are not actually in line with what they want to achieve in their life,
Right.
right? And I think something like journaling really helps with working out what you actually want in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this on a previous episode, but there was this really good thing called the 30-day journal that I think
Yeah.
really helps with this. Basically, at the end of every day for 30 days, you write down your answers to three questions, which are what filled me with enthusiasm today, what drained me of energy today, and what did I learn about myself today.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the month, you go back and read through all of your answers, and then you can work out what filled me with enthusiasm this month, what drained me of energy this month, and what did I learn about myself this month. And I feel like that kind of exercise is such a good way to work out what you do and don't want in your life. And, you know, making goals and resolutions for yourself based on your answers to those questions can be really helpful, I think, for working out how to improve your life overall. And then, you know, I think it's really important after you've worked that out to actually see whether what you're doing in your life day to day is actually giving you the type of life that you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, if it's really important to you that you spend quality time with your family, but then day to day you don't have any time to spend with your family because you're so busy working or you're tied up with social commitments that drain you of energy, then it's probably a good thing to reevaluate your life and how you're spending your day to day and see whether you can try to change your daily routines or your daily habits to make time for the things that actually really matter to you, right?
Right. Totally.
You know, I think the other thing is that a lot of the times, setting goals for yourself and sticking to them is not necessarily about motivation or willpower. It's more about changing your identity or just the idea that you have of yourself, otherwise known as your self concept. So, yeah, like if you're the type of person who finds it difficult to stick to good habits, then it can sometimes be good to approach it from the point of view of first deciding what type of person you want to be, or working out the identity of what type of person would naturally be able to live the type of lifestyle that you aspire to live, or the type of person who would have the type of habits that you aspire to have. And, you know, sometimes changing your identity in that way and behaving like the person that you want to be before you actually become them will
Right.
actually help you become that type of person. So yeah, I read about this in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a very good book for helping people build good habits based on changing their identity. But one of the things he said was if you're someone who's trying to give up smoking, if someone offers you a cigarette, you can just reply saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker," which
Mm-hmm.
kind of just it doesn't even make you question your motivation or your willpower or whether you should say yes or no to that cigarette. You can just say like, I don't identify as a smoker, that's just
Right.
not part of my identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can also do this for building good habits as well. For example, if one of your goals is that you want to write a novel, you want to become a writer, then you could start thinking, what would a writer do? Well, obviously, they would spend time writing every day. So, if
Right.
you want to have the identity of a writer, then you have to spend time writing every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think yeah, that's a pretty
Mm.
interesting way to look at goal setting, I think. Do you have anything you want to share?
When it comes to like New Year's resolutions, I mine is also pretty similar. I just want to share some of my personal experiences, probably. So, for me, how I go about improving my New Year's resolutions and how I, began to make them happen is I think I usually just start by reflecting on my daily routine from the past year before
Hmm.
even making my New Year's resolutions. So I
Hmm.
just usually sat down and wrote out a list of how I usually spend my day. Like I paid attention to the trends, like where I'm spending the most time, what takes me hours, or what just slips by without even me noticing. Like I break it all down by time of day, like figuring out what I have to do and what I don't really need to do, or what's unnecessary, or what I want to make time for but haven't really been doing. And I also noted things that I'm doing but should probably cut back on. So
Yeah.
once I had that all laid out, it was so much more easier for me to actually see how I should be spending my time and my day. So that's where I started, because honestly, time is so limited. It's one of the only few resources that we cannot get more of.
Yeah, you can never get it back.
Right. So I think it's important to actually sit down to think about how I spend my time and start with that. And I think it's sometimes good to lower the bar. Like I don't mean to say that we should settle for something that's not fulfilling or not rewarding, but I just think it's important to celebrate even the small like wins in everyday routine. Like if I read like one line of a book, I count that as progress instead of saying that, oh, I really need to read for an hour every day. So I just focus on just starting. Same with Duolingo as well. Like I don't tell myself to finish 10 lessons every day, but I just commit to like maybe 10 minutes every day. So I think it's about breaking like big goals into smaller ones to build habits first instead of having all different kinds of huge, impossible plans. And speaking of habits, we usually just have this tendency to fall back into what we are really used to. I think maybe it was atomic habits that you talked about, but I read somewhere that it takes about 60 days to really have a new habit and get comfortable with it. And
Yeah.
so I usually start thinking about my New Year's resolutions in October and begin using into them around November. And by the time it's January, I've already like built some kind of momentum
Momentum.
going. Yeah. So it's like giving myself a start so that I can actually step into the new year as the version of myself that I want to be evolving into. I sound like a planner.
Yeah, this all sounds very organized.
Yeah.
So,
I only started doing this from last year. So,
did it work?
yeah, like I usually just, oh, maybe 2 years ago. I started doing this since like 2022.
But did you manage to achieve your resolutions then?
Some of them, yeah, not everything, but some of them. I'm still an ENFP, so I still have some of the bigger plans. Yeah. And also, when I have goals or things that I want to achieve, I think it's important to actually share them with people around you. Like, honestly, I'm still working on this as well because I have this tendency to put things out there only when it's perfect.
Okay.
But I'm starting to realize that it's really important to actually share my goals and progress with the people around me, like with my friends and with my colleagues, and because just talking about what I want, it can create unexpected like support from people who want to help, and it also makes me more accountable, like telling people about the things that I want to do in the new year, and that actually motivates me to do things more and be more organized. And once I've said it out loud, I feel just more committed to following through. So I try to share the progress and process as it's happening.
Yeah, and sometimes like you never know if you just put something out there, you never know what's going to come back from someone, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you're like, I'm not saying this is you, but if you're someone who's really struggling with weight loss, for example, and then you tell, your work colleagues that one of your resolutions is to lose weight, then one of them might say, like, oh, I know this really great weight loss support group. You should
Yeah.
go. Like you
Right.
never know, like how people are going to help you achieve your goals without you even
Mm-hmm.
realizing it, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And even with this podcast as well, I'm not
Yeah.
always 100% comfortable speaking, but I just try to keep showing up and everything so that I can share this journey. And I just put myself out there to see what happens. And I think it's important to do that these days. It's just part of the story and it's how we build our own brands and to actually make things happen.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of, putting things out there, have you ever tried making a vision board?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And has it
Let's talk
worked?
about that. Even my vision board, it has so many grand plans.
Oh my god.
So a lot of them still haven't like happened yet. But I find it incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually watched a lot of YouTube videos and listened to a lot of podcast episodes about the science behind why vision boards work. And they were saying all this stuff about how, yeah, you need to make each picture like an achievable goal with a specific kind of measurable outcome as well, rather than just using it for inspiration without a clear purpose. But yeah, so then having learned about all that, I actually started making vision boards about a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was quite skeptical about it at first, but I think it really does work because I think one of them was that I wanted to go on more like fun holidays with friends. And then, yeah, this past year I've had so many fun holidays with friends that I didn't even plan. I just kept getting invited to stuff. And, like even when I went to visit you in Seoul with some of my friends from Tokyo, that was really fun.
That was so much fun.
And then another thing was that for about the past over 10 years, I had been looking for a pink fur coat,
Yeah.
like a fake fur coat.
Right,
And
right.
I put that on my vision board. I mean, obviously, because yeah, it's like an achievable goal that has a measurable outcome, right?
Yeah.
And I've been looking for, yeah, over 10 years. I tried on so many in different shops, but like there was always a problem. Like it was usually that it would be too expensive or the material wasn't good or it wouldn't be the
Mm-hmm.
right size and I didn't
Right,
like
right,
the
right, right, right.
color or I didn't like the shape of the coat or something like that. But then a couple of weeks ago, just so randomly, at night I was walking past this street with shops and I walked past this really small independent boutique and I saw this pink fur coat in the shop window. Coat was on a mannequin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw it and I was like, oh, wow, that looks pretty nice. It
Mm-hmm.
looks like the kind of coat that I'm looking for. And then the next day I went back to the shop to try it on and it fit perfectly. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the shop
Yeah,
owner was so happy to see me so excited about the
yeah,
coat that she
yeah.
even gave me a 20% discount.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it all worked out. And then I was like, oh my God, yeah, dreams do come true. Vision boards do work.
Yeah. Oh my
I actually
god.
believe that if I hadn't put that coat on my vision board, I wouldn't have found it in that shop. Because I've heard that the key to vision boarding is that you need to look at them regularly. Like you need to look at your
Yeah.
vision board regularly
Right,
because then
right.
your mind starts to absorb that information and then it starts to look for it everywhere as well. So because I'd seen this picture of a pink fur coat so many times on my vision board, obviously it meant that I was more sensitive to seeing pink fur coats out on the street, which is why I was
Right.
able to spot that random coat in the shop window of this small shop that was actually shut at the time, right? It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even open because it wasn't during daytime working hours. But yeah, if I didn't have that on my vision board and if I hadn't reminded myself of that goal every time I saw the vision board, I might have easily missed that coat in the shop window because I
Definitely.
wouldn't have known
Yeah.
to look for it.
And even the science backs this up as well. Like when you visualize yourself achieving like a specific goal, like your brain starts to prime itself to make that goal like a reality. I heard
Yeah.
that it's called something like mental rehearsal or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's actually there's this whole science behind it.
Yeah, also just a couple more tips on how to, work on improving yourself this year, or how to set attainable goals. I think I watched on some YouTube videos about how a lot of people use alter egos to help
Mm-hmm.
them achieve certain goals or kind of just generally for self improvement purposes. There's actually this book that's about this topic. It's called The Alter Ego Effect by Todd
Yeah.
Herman. And I think it just kind of goes into how you can go about doing this. But basically, it's meant to be so that, you know, if you're someone who wants to do something, but you struggle to have the courage or the confidence to do it, or you just kind of lack the willpower,
Right.
then you can mentally get yourself in the right place by turning on an alter ego and pretending that you are that person. So actually a lot of celebrities have used this as well. So you know, Marilyn Monroe was actually an alter ego. Her name was actually Norma Jean, and then she had Marilyn Monroe as like the kind of confident and sexy alter ego. And apparently people even reacted differently depending on whether she was playing the role of Norma Jean,
Yeah.
her real self, or her
Mm-hmm.
alter ego Marilyn Monroe. And apparently when she was just walking down the street as Norma Jean, people didn't even notice her. But then as soon as
Mm-hmm.
she turned on her alter ego Marilyn Monroe, people were just crowding around her asking for autographs and everything.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and even Beyonce, she used to have this alter ego called Sasha Fierce. This was when she was, I think, when she was a teenager, she was a bit shy about putting herself out there, and she was singing at her local church, and she kind of had a stage name, I guess, Sasha Fierce, who was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a more confident version of herself, who was more confident about performing and putting herself out there. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she kind of used that to give herself the willpower to go out and, you know, sing in front of crowds of people and stuff.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, even if you don't want to become like Marilyn Monroe or Beyonce, you can still use it if you're struggling with being able to work out every day or eating healthy. You can think up this alter ego who is kind of like a, I don't know, like a yoga goddess who
Yeah.
only
And
drinks
embrace that.
yeah, who only drinks smoothies and eats salads. And then you can be like, well, I'm not gonna have that box of chocolates because today I'm being my alter ego who is really into healthy
Yeah,
eating, you know?
definitely. And actually, this reminds me of this concept, reality trend surfing. Have you ever heard about that before?
No.
So basically, I think this is also similar to vision board and everything that you just said as well. So basically, there's this whole book. Maybe if anyone listening like is interested in checking it out, it's actually a book. So reality transurfing is actually this concept that basically says we can move through different tracks of reality based on our thoughts, actions, and energy.
Mm.
So it's almost like we are tuning into a radio station. Like if you want to experience
Oh,
a certain
yeah.
kind of life, you have to just align yourself with the
Yeah,
frequency
I've
of
heard
that
about
life.
this. Yeah.
So it's all about like the mindset, like intention. It's all about like the alter ego, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's like learning to just accept that sort of possibility instead of trying to force everything. And I heard that the first step to actually start doing that is to visualize it. You know, get super clear about the version of your life that you want to step into and just imagine what it looks like and what it feels like. So the more you connect with that, the easier it is for you to actually start aligning your energy with it, and then it becomes your reality. So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, because you know, like Marilyn Monroe, obviously it's so specific, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
she even gave her other reality a different name, like a specific name, right? Because I think a lot of the times people think that they want a better life or they want to improve themselves, but they don't actually have a specific goal in mind for what their life is going to look like when it's improved.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you need to get really clear on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess vision boarding is a good exercise for working that out because if you're not so clear about it that you can't put it on a vision board, then it probably means that you don't know what you want
Right.
clearly enough to actually
Mm-hmm.
make it happen.
Right, right. And if that's not something that you want to put on your vision board, then it probably means that that's not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another important thing to keep in mind is that whenever you're making changes to your life or, you know, making resolutions, trying to improve yourself, you should always only ever do it for yourself. You shouldn't make changes with other people in mind, or, make changes for other people, to please other people, or even to, get revenge on other people or get back at other people. Because, I've seen all this thing about how, a lot of people after they go through a breakup, they go through the whole like revenge body phase where they try to like get
Right.
rid because they want to get back at their ex or whatever. But I feel like if you're trying to make changes to yourself with someone else in mind, then that's never going to be a good idea. Yeah, I feel like, this whole getting revenge body because you broke up with your ex is not really a good way to get over someone either, right? Because if you're trying to get over someone, you shouldn't be making decisions for your own life based on them. You should just, focus on yourself and how you can improve your own life without that person in mind. What would you do to improve your life if that person doesn't even exist, right?
Right.
That's the frame of mind you should approach it from, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, did you want to finish by sharing your New Year's resolutions for this year?
Oh my god. Okay, my New Year's, after saying all this about big goals and failing resolutions, my resolution is still to learn Spanish. I mean, I really wanna learn Spanish and really improve my Spanish. Learning languages are something that I truly love. So it's one of my New Year's resolutions.
So, do you have a specific goal in mind for, what level of Spanish you want to get to? For example, by the end of the year, you're going to be able to have a conversation with Cami in Spanish
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think
or something like that.
my grand aspiration is to be like a native speaker.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think this is why your goals don't work out.
Yeah, that's so true. But okay, for next year, it's not that. For next year, the level of Spanish that I want to achieve next year is just, when I travel to maybe like South America, I want to be able to speak to local people, like ask questions in the street about how I can get to a certain place and stuff like that. Or just have like a basic, how are you sort of conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. It's reasonable, right?
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
manageable. And aside from Spanish, I think I will start working on my own ideas and what kind of business that I want to do. Maybe start doing some of it or just set up some kind of financial pipeline for myself outside of my corporate job right now.
Hmm.
It's not just about earning more money, it's just about gaining more independence, financial independence, so I can feel like I'm actually building something that's really my own.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the big resolution that I have for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, how about yours?
Well, I had a few, but I think I've just got two main ones. One is that I want to grow our podcast to 10,000 downloads per month by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can reach that by the middle of the year, but I want to be realistic, so I'll say the end of the year.
Yeah, just added that on my list as well. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a very measurable goal, right? We either achieve it or we don't. So, and the other one is that for the past several years, I've been trying to write a novel, and I wrote a few drafts of a novel back in 2020 during COVID. But then, yeah, I want to start writing another one this year. I'm going to finally start writing it. And I think in order to do that, I've really been examining how I spend my days and my weeks and my weekends and everything. And I think I'm going to have to become a lot more intentional about how I'm spending my time if I want to feel inspired in the right ways and, be filled with passionate ideas and all that. I can't be spending my time doing things that I'm not passionate about or that I don't find inspiring.
Definitely.
Because, like the high quality input is necessary for high quality output, right?
Yeah, so true.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna try to become more intentional about how I spend my time, what I
Mm-hmm.
say yes to in terms of social events and engagements, I guess. Yeah, just trying not to feed my brain with junk values because,
Okay.
like to keep your body healthy, you shouldn't eat junk food. And then to keep your brain healthy, you shouldn't feed your brain with junk values or junk ideas, right? Which to me means, not spending too much time on social media, mindless scrolling on Instagram reels
Right.
and stuff like that, right?
Oh my god, yeah, so true.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I everyone for listening. And yeah, thank you so much in advance for your support this year and helping us reach our goal of 10,000 monthly downloads by the end of the year. Let's make that happen.
Let's make that happen.
And yeah, Happy New Year, everyone, and best wishes for 2025.
Happy New Year! Thank you so much for listening to our latest episode, and if you like that, please share with a friend.
We'd also really appreciate if you could rate and review our podcast. And please get in touch if you have any feedback.
We'll be back again with another episode next week.